It's no secret that Civilization 7 has been on a rocky first year. However, today brings a brand new update for the game, which hopefully looks to reinvigorate both player numbers as well as reception for the actual game. There are a huge amount of changes to this game that are coming with this patch. So let's dive in and take a look at what those are. This is update 1.2.5. Now, I'll be reading through the update for you if you'd like to take a look at the full notes. They'll be down below. Keep in mind that in addition to this update, there is also a brand new content collection that is being released, and that is Scylla, Qajar, and Lux Mibai, who are all going to be coming to the to Civilization 7. And the game that we've actually got going on behind us at the moment is a combination of those two. We're playing as Scylla, which is a really fun civilization available in the Age of Antiquity, and Lux Mibai, who I'm still probably pronouncing that incorrectly. She's a fun leader. So I actually really enjoyed this playthrough, which is a great sign. So anyway, let's get into it and take a look at some of the big things. So to start us off, hey Civ fans, update 1.2.5 is rolling out now on all platforms. Inside you'll find new themed city-states to expand your suzeraning options, new map types with improved generation, and a full rework of Napoleon. We've also made a wide range of balance adjustments and quality of life changes, including UI improvements to the production menu, building placement, and growth events. And finally, this update includes the remainder of the Right to Rule collection, as we discussed earlier. So let's start off and take a look at the first features. So the first feature spotlight that they've got for us is the new map type and improved map generation. So here we can see some of the new map types or new map generations that they've got. The map that I'm actually playing on in the game behind you, or the game behind me, is Pangaea and Islands, if I remember correctly. And the spawn is a little bit, well, it's definitely not as standard as what you'd normally expect. It almost felt like I was in a little bit of an archipelago on the start. But eventually it does sort of open up, and it's the same sort of thing that you actually see down here in this image. So improved map generation and new map types, definitely always going to be welcome. On top of that, there's also improvements to the UI, specifically with regard to settlements. So if we take a look at some of the pictures they've got, we've got the old one, a little bit hard to see right now for you guys. So let me, look, I'll try and zoom it in. Give me a second. There we go. So you can see the old one, and then you've got the new one here, which I've probably zoomed in a little bit too far now. But essentially what it does is it itemizes what your bonuses are going to be. So instead before, where it was just like, hey, you've got a bazaar with 19 and you're like, that's crazy, I'll put that bad boy down. Whereas now it actually tells you, hey, your bazaar is 6 and you're going to get an adjacency bonus of 13. That's the maximum that it can give you. So it's one of those small little details that's actually quite nice. There's also some other noticeable UI and UX changes that are coming in this update. So just to run you guys through those. So we've gone through the production menu, which shows the base yields. We've also got building placement, so a new yield indicator, a revamped building slot icon, and featured tiles for placement consideration. Growth events, the same visual language as placement, with before and after previews to help you decide improvements versus specialists. Constructible tooltips, reformatted with a cleaner layout, consistent info and tags to summarize its role, and yield losses now surface much more clearly across contexts, so trade-offs are less hidden. And I think this is a great change. One of the key things that I noticed in this playthrough was just how more transparent or more obvious it was when you were making a good decision versus a bad decision when to put down a certain citizen. So this is definitely a change in the right direction and something that is definitely going to help people feel a little bit more at home in this game. Next up, we've got the diplomatic and expansionist city-states. So they've added 2 new city-states, diplomatic, expansionist, so it now matches all of your character bonuses, I guess was probably the best way to say it, you know, like diplomacy, the commerce, the expansionist, all those sorts of different things. So you can already see in the game that we're playing at the moment, that new green icon is for the expansionist city-state. And they've got a whole bunch of different bonuses, and you can see right here we're looking to utilize potentially some of those bonuses. We've also spotted out Moreau just here. But on top of that, there's also the diplomatic city-state, which offers you even more bonuses. So the big ones that I liked the most, let me see, I'll see if I can pull them up. Actually, we'll talk a little bit about them later, but just to show you on what they've got. So this right here is an example, the Welsh people, which are going to be diplomatic, and then we've got the expansionist city-state here, the Pratahara people. There we go. So I like it quite a lot, mainly because there's something that takes me way back. I think it's Civ 6, where you've got the option, once you seize them, to get a settler. And I thought that was really, really nice. There's also the option for an extra settlement limit, which is obviously really good as well. But one thing to note that we haven't really touched on is, from everything I've seen with the balance changes that have come through in Civ 7, that there is a good chance the meta is going to shift significantly. So gone are the days of having, you know, a million cities, not towns, cities. I don't think city maxing is going to be the right way to play Civ 7 anymore, which is a good thing, right? At the end of the day, there needs to be more than one way to play the game, and adding that in removing that is probably the better way to say it, is definitely the right call. We've also got a strategic balance pass. So they've essentially gone through and reassessed every single percentage. So, you know, when you get to the end of the diplomatic tree and it's like plus 3% to all yields, and then you buy it twice, and then you buy it 10 times, and then you buy it 20 times, and you just laugh at the enemy as your yields are so much bigger than anything that they could potentially bring. Well, that is no longer going to be happening, because a lot of those percentage bonuses were stacking. They'd give you 3% here and 10% here and 50% here. And so they've nerfed essentially across the board a lot of those bonuses, which is a great change. And it definitely makes a lot more sense, because it means that snowball's not going to be as strong. Now, keep in mind, if you would like to read through the entirety of these patch notes, I will leave them down below a link. We're more just doing a sort of high-level look over and taking a look at exactly what's changes. So, let's take a look at what has changed. They actually spell it out here. So, off-map yields and stacking percentages. We reviewed the entire game and removed almost every stacking percentage bonus. Leaders and civs retain their bonuses to increase their strategic impact. Where possible, we replace percentages with numerical bonuses that are still meaningful but don't snowball uncontrollably. When you snowball, it should be because of smart decisions, not repeated 3% bonuses. I do like that dig very specifically at the 3% bonus for diplomacy. Buildings and city strategy. We added a new cost progression mechanic for buildings. Now, every non-warehouse building in a settlement increases the cost of future non-warehouse buildings there. Buildings across your empire also cost more for every additional city, other than your capital. Base costs were adjusted, and most buildings now provide higher base yields. So basically, the way that it works now is that you're going to be paying, or you're going to be spending more production to build additional buildings, and that multiplies both based on how many other buildings you've got that aren't warehouse buildings, as well as how many other cities there are. So if you've got, say, 50 non-warehouse buildings across your empire, and you've also got 8 cities, then when you convert your next town to a city, just to build, say, a library is going to take you an incredibly long amount of time. Therefore, you're obviously discouraged from doing that. So this is a great change. Definitely reduces the, or increases the barrier to entry into those towns or those cities after they've become towns, or sorry, go from towns into cities. So definitely the right call. And then finally, gold economy. They've adjusted unit maintenance costs in all ages and reduced the base production in towns and subsequently gold. Also made adjustment to a number of social policies, resources, city-state effects, modern tech costs, and civ abilities to better fit with this new paradigm. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a quick drink here. I've run out of drink. That's water. Hold on, I've got a watermelon drink just here for just in case. Okay, I think we're good. Napoleon Revisited. I will also just say I'm a little bit sick at the moment, so apologies. So next up, we've got Napoleon Revisited. So they have completely, well, not completely changed. They have reworked Napoleon, both of the Napoleons, to make them actually a little bit more exciting, because they were somewhat flat. So what do they actually do? That's the question. So what we're going to do is we're just going to quickly shift over right now to Civilization and just actually take a look at the bonuses that they've got. It's easier to read them in here. So Napoleon Emperor, all basic sanctions are automatically unlocked. So this means that you start off the game with like 9 sanctions. Maybe not 9, like 7 sanctions. It's crazy. There's so many sanctions. 50% influence towards initiating sanctions, so that means that it's cheaper for your sanctions. 5 culture and 5 gold per age for each leader you have an active sanction on, except denouncement, so you can't use the denouncement because it's cheaper than the actual sanctions. The sanctions are more expensive, so that's why. And then 1 combat strength for land units for every sanction you have active except for denouncement. So basically the idea here is you just want to sanction everybody all the time. It can be hard. You actually don't really get a lot of influence, at least initially. You're basically on bad terms with everybody throughout the game. And the first game that I played with Napoleon, so I've just played one like a couple of hours ago, and everybody declared war on me. So I might need to look into the strategy. The other Napoleon Revolutionary, still has the 1 movement on all land units, and defeating an enemy unit provides culture equal to 100% of its combat strength. So this is actually more than what it used to be. I think it used to be 50%. So that's a really nice increase, because this was definitely always something that you kind of looked at and went, meh, it's not really that crazy. And this is the cool part. The first time each age that a war is declared against you, gain an army commander in your capital packed with 1 infantry unit, cavalry unit, range unit, and a siege unit, even if those units have not yet been unlocked, which is super duper cool. So I can see a lot of ways to potentially use or abuse Napoleon now that he's been changed. I suspect he's probably going to work most effectively, at least in the Age of Antiquity, with the Han. That's something that he always kind of synergized quite well with, at least the first Napoleon. The second one, we might have to do a little bit of looking into it, but definitely something nice to shake it up. Now, let's take a look at some of the other changes that they've made, because obviously these are sort of like the big ticket items, the big ones that we've gotten out of the way. Let's go through and have a look at all of the other changes. So first I want to just talk about balance for leaders and civilizations. So just to bring that up on the screen, we've already been through Napoleon, the Emperor, Napoleon the Revolutionary, and now just one thing to note, Abbasid has been nerfed, which is great. You know, I remember when they did that balance pass a couple months ago and Abbasid like managed to scathe or get through unscathed. Things have changed. It is not the case right here. So Abbasid previously got 50% production towards constructing buildings in cities with at least 8 urban population. So now they've nerfed it. Now it's 20% production towards constructing buildings. And instead of 8 urban population, it's 5 specialists, which is actually a lot harder to trigger, especially because at least typically early on in the Age of Exploration, you won't have that many specialists. So you're going to have to really work to try and convert your urban population over to specialists. On top of that, we also see the 10% science in cities with at least 5 specialists. Previously, it was 15 science in cities with 8 urban population. So once again, harder to hit and also not as strong. 4 science in towns was changed to 2 science and 2 happiness, and then 3 golden science for each resource to 1 golden science for each resource. So Abbasid absolutely nerfed, and rightfully so. By far the most powerful civilization in exploration, wasn't even close. So definitely a worthwhile change. Now we take a look at the other balances that they've done. Now I will just say that there are a lot of changes here, so we're probably not going to be covering all of them. Once again, as I reiterated earlier, if you want to check out the individual or the notes, then I will leave them down below. So of course we've got the new map types. We've got Pangaean Islands as well as continent and islands. And then we've got the new city-state. So just to go over some of the bonuses that they've got. So the first one, the diplomatic one, which is the blue one. So your befriend gift, as an example, for a befriend gift, you get a military unit if you befriend the military city-state. Here, you get happiness. So 50 happiness towards your next celebration. Doesn't really seem that great, at least compared to what you actually get for the growth or for the expansionist one. That one is really good, let me say that right now. But you get some really cool bonuses. So let me see if I can find the best one. So you get the ability... Oh, apologies, I was not showing you on the screen what I was looking at. So with regard to antiquity bonuses, we're only going to look at antiquity, not going to look at exploration or modern, just because, well, that's still how it is. So festival grounds, so you have the ability to construct a unique improvement. Not that exciting, but send delegation's pretty cool. Check this out. When accepted, both civs gain 4 happiness per turn, and you gain vision of their capital for the duration, which is pretty cool. So you obviously can't send a delegation in Civ 7 with the exception of this endeavor. And when it's supported, then both of you obviously get vision of the capitals. And I've tested this. It's live vision. It's not like you just unlock the fog of war on the map where their capital is. Like, you can actively see what's going on in there. So it's really cool. It gives you the ability to essentially spy on someone from across the map. You've also got... There wasn't anything else in here that was too crazy. The extra social policy slot was kind of cool. And then it's the happiness on warehouse buildings. But the bonuses I want to take a look at are the expansionist ones. Have a look at this. Oh, speaking of expansionist one, here we go. It's up on the screen right now. +1 settlement limit. +1 food on resources, +4 food on food buildings. We got some good stuff in here for the suzerain bonuses, and of course, a free settler in your capital. Now, at the moment, I'm 3 out of 3 in this game, so I said, you know what? We probably don't want the settler. We'll take the settlement limit instead, and that's obviously going to serve us very well. So, in the Age of Antiquity, I suspect that the expansionist city-states are going to be hotly contested, because you also get a befriend gift of 1 migrant in the capital. And of course, as long as you save that migrant for, immediately after you've grown, it's hugely valuable. I think in this game I actually got 2 migrants, which was very, very nice. But yeah, that is definitely a really nice bonus that you can actually look to pick up, or look forward to picking up. So let's scroll down a little bit further. I'll go through the updated city-state bonuses. So we found city-state bonuses were too powerful and encouraged suzeraning as many city-states as possible over strategically choosing them based on bonuses. So we made some balance changes. Now, to stack bonuses, you need to suzerain more of the same type of city-state. So remember before how it was like, depending on how many city-states you're a suzerain of, now it's how many city-states you're a suzerain of that are the same type. So the bonuses that you get for like the diplomatic only apply to the diplomatic, which is definitely a cool bonus. It kind of reminds me a little bit of previous Civ games as well, the way that works. So we also cut down on percentage bonuses, free techs and civics, and most building yield bonuses to make other gameplay decisions more important. The new diplomatic and expansionist city-states follow these rules, and leaders like Tecumseh in civs like Greece and Siam get a nice boost since they still count all city-states for their relevant effects. For any change beyond number tweaks, or making effects scale off city-state or types of city-states, we've included the previous version for reference. Now, there is a huge amount of changes that are in here. Let me just go through and show you, just so you can see as to exactly why we're not actually going to be going through them all, because there's just so damn many. But we will take a look at the strategic balance pass. So previously, a lot of the bonuses were percentage-based. 10% culture in cities with at least 1 wonder in the culture tree. The 10% culture for every alliance you have. 5% total culture. The repeatable one at the end. Now it's just a baseline of culture, which obviously feels worse if you're doing it, right? If you're in the game and you're like, it's only 5 culture repeatable, like this kind of sucks. Well, that's a good thing. Go spend your points somewhere else that doesn't feel that bad. Because obviously 5% total culture repeatable was amazing, because you just pick it 1,000 times. Well, not 1,000 times, but you get the idea. Now, this is applied pretty much to everything across the board when it comes to the attribute trees. So we see it for the scientific tree, we see it for the economic tree, we see it for the diplo tree. We've seen it everywhere. Now, the other important thing to note is the rebalance buildings. I talked about this earlier, but building cost progression. All buildings now scale with the number of other buildings in that settlement and cities in your empire. The cost to produce or purchase a building increases by 5% for each non-warehouse building in that settlement. So if you've got a monument and a library, that's 2 buildings, that's 10%. If you want to build a barracks, that's going to be an extra 10% production you have to put towards that. The cost to produce and purchase a building increases by 10% for each city other than your capital in your empire. So if you've got 4 cities in your empire, that's 40%. And then let's say you've already built a monument and you've already built a library and you want to build that barracks, now there's another 10% on top. So you're now paying 50% more production in that city for your barracks than what you normally would have been paying. That's a lot. And that's a huge way to discourage players from really going into wide city strategies, right? It doesn't discourage you from going wide. It just discourages you from going into wide city strategies where you've got... I don't know if you guys remember, there was a video I did where we were playing Mississippi in the Age of Antiquity, and I think it was Catherine, Mississippi, and we had 12 cities, and we were printing like 800 gold per turn by the end of Antiquity. Every single city was like fully maxed, not a building was missing, and it's just like, this shouldn't be possible. This is a little bit sad. Anyway, it looks like they may have come up with a fix, so we'll have to see whether or not it's viable to be going into that. So Definitely a good thing. On top of that, they've also changed the amounts of production for buildings. So to encourage better pacing and more strategic planning around constructing and overbuilding buildings, we've adjusted costs and base yields across all ages. The biggest changes are in exploration and modern. Buildings now provide more yield. We've also designated one building per age to focus primarily on influence, giving it a higher influence output than before. This is mostly a shift in how we think about these buildings and will serve as a foundation for future content. We have not changed the types of buildings in this update. So that's an interesting thing to note. They haven't changed the types of buildings in this update. But what do we have? Realistically, the base cost of your library, monument, altar, barracks, garden, market all have a base cost of 90 production. I don't remember exactly what it was beforehand, but I remember it being higher than that. And obviously that scales with each of your ages. With regard to unit maintenance as well, let's take a look at this change here. So military unit base maintenance costs have been adjusted across all ages. Maintenance cost scaling per unit tier has been updated across all ages. Base maintenance costs based on what tier of unit is first available in each age are listed below. So, Antiquity, maintenance costs increased by 1 gold per tier of the unit. So infantry, tier 1 units, 0 gold per turn. Range, 0. Siege, 2 gold per turn. Cavalry, 3 gold per turn. And naval, 2 gold per turn. So with each tier, 1 gold per turn. So once you get to tier, so cavalry, it says tier 2 units. I mean, they are tier 2, and then you can go to tier 3, right? That would become 4 gold. And by the same token, with ranged units, tier 1, 0, then tier 2 would be 1 gold, and then tier 3 would be 2 gold. I suspect that's the way that it's going to work. So definitely a interesting change, because if I remember correctly, I don't think ranged units ever paid a gold maintenance fee. If I remember correctly, at least in Antiquity. Maybe I'm remembering it incorrectly, but I remember that I would have a pretty large standing army of ranged units towards the end of Antiquity, and I would look at the policy for maintenance, and it would give me, -5 or +5 gold. It was negligible. So perhaps a nice little change there. So towns rebalance. City halls in towns no longer have a base production yield. On conversion to a city hall gains 3 production per age. So previously, one of the big things that I posited, or that I said, is you want to try and settle your towns as quickly as possible, because the moment you settle a town, that town will start producing gold. And then the moment that gold is being produced, you can use that gold for other things. Now, basically, they're saying, hey, you don't have to rush your towns anymore. You can still go and do it to secure land. It makes sense. But you're not going to get gold from doing that. And I think that's definitely a great change, because I remember playing as Xerxes, and you'd get all the settlement limits or increases, and you just spam out. Like, I remember spamming, 6 towns or something, and you'd have your capital in 6 towns, and you'd be sitting on 80 gold per turn. And it's like, this is ridiculous. It's turn 37, and I've got 80 gold per turn. It was very strong. So that's quite nice. The convert town into city pop-up has been updated to tell the player that a city has increased production, and what about the increased cost of buildings across the empire when converted? So another nice little change. They've also rebalanced social policies. So some social policies had bonuses that were percentage-based. So as an example, +2 food in all settlements casts. If I remember correctly, this used to be +25% food in all settlements, or in towns. Am I crazy? Or am I thinking of something different? Maybe I'm thinking of something different. Maybe, was that clan networks? Maybe it was clan networks. With cast taking clan network effect, we redesigned this to be more effective in the early game scramble to settle new towns. So it's 20% growth rate in towns with a growing focus. So yeah, I think it was 25% food in towns. I think that was just what it was previously. So another little change. Literature, 2 science on buildings, 20% production towards science buildings. This is kind of nice. This is pretty good. And 2 culture on culture buildings, 20% production towards culture buildings. So reducing the amount of production boost that you would get when you're constructing those buildings, but actually giving you a yield bonus instead. So definitely, I think that's a nice little middle ground. So definitely a smart call from the devs here. Let's take a look and see what else we've got. Oh, they've rebalanced. They've completely changed the way some of the resources work. So in Antiquity, gold no longer increases or reduces the cost of buildings. So now it just provides 1 gold and happiness in all settlements. So if you've got 8 settlements, you get 8 gold and 8 happiness. Kinda meh. keep in mind this does stack. So if you got 5 golds, that would be 5 gold and 5 happiness in all settlements. So that I get, maybe that's kind of good actually. Now that I think about it, yeah, we could do that. And then silver. Silver is definitely going to be a high priority one. Now that I think about it, 1 gold and food in all settlements. So if you've got 5 settlements and 3 silver, that's an extra 15 gold and an extra 15 food in all settlements. Not bad, not bad. We'd be happy with that. And wine previously provided 2 happiness and 10% culture when in a celebration. Now it's 2 happiness in the capital and 5 culture when in a celebration. So it just gives you that flat bonus. 5 culture is still a meaningful amount, right? Like, it's obviously better early on and worse later on. I think that's it. So I remember I would save wine tiles typically to like turn 80, turn 90 to pick them up. Whereas now you can pick up wine very early, because if you hit that early, the early golden age or celebration, that extra 5 culture on top of like the 20% culture, that's going to stack. That's going to be quite nice. And then you slot the +2 culture in for the policies. That's going to be quite nice. I like that. I like that. Hardwood got nerfed. Dude, why did they nerf hardwood? Hardwood was one of the worst bonuses that you could possibly get. 20% towards naval units. Now it's just 10% towards naval units. Bro, nobody likes hardwood. Why would you you nerfed the only... It was terrible. It was terrible. They just made it even worse. And then Jade. So it used to be 15% gold in the settlement. Now it's just 10% gold in the settlement. I know, especially towards exploration, once you start stacking up Jade, it could feel pretty good. There's also changes with exploration and modern. And what else have we got? We've got changes to cultural victory and scientific victory. So specifically, the explorer movement has been moved from 3 to 2. And for scientific victory, we've got several modern age tech costs have been reduced. Dev note, the removal of stacking percentage and free tech bonuses had the largest impact on the scientific victory. We found in testing that it slowed down this victory more than we wanted, so we adjusted the cost of late games tech to compensate. That makes sense. So basically, it's just to balance out the fact that you're not going to be sticking 400 multipliers on science anymore, which it makes sense. They've also added advanced options, just to show you guys around or through, just on some of the other, on some of the stuff. Let me pull that down and bring this back. So advanced options is now down here. So you got like more on the front, and under advanced options, I don't actually know if there was anything in here, but one thing to note, when we launched the game, like the menu is actually different when you go into it now. So I don't know whether or not, I don't think this was added in this patch. I'll be real with you. Oh, sorry, I should say I'm 99% sure it was added in this patch. Just give me a sec. Don't worry. It's loading up. We're still here. So here. Things look very different. Things look a lot better. You know, long gone are the days of when you'd hit this and you'd have 2 different rows over here on the right-hand side of your screen. So definitely a nice little change there for the main menu. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move forward. Some small changes to AI. AI will no longer avoid rejecting a denounced sanction when players send an overwhelming military force towards them. AI no longer fails to add additional influence towards the befriend independent action when the player takes lead of the action, which is quite interesting because I remember playing games where this was actually happening. I remember thinking to myself, well, hold on a minute, I should have won that. Why did I not win that? So I suspect what was happening in some cases, they weren't doing that. And basically it's saying that they will actually fight now to befriend the independent if you overtake them. Walls from previous ages are now properly removed when AI leaders overbuild new walls on a tile during exploration modern, and the AI gives greater weighting to the population of offered cities in peace deals. Of course, yes, you guys remember the good old days of offering up the 27 population city for the 2 population city. The AI will no longer pick the first available pantheon when they unlock mysticism and will instead pick one that is the most beneficial. And I've already noticed, can I just say right now, I have already noticed that they have been taking our favorite one, Stone Circles, which is +1 production to mines. They took it. They took my baby. Because normally they didn't take that. So now they actually start taking it, which is pretty smart. AI no longer bypasses government celebration limitations and chooses the same one when entering a celebration, and AI will now prioritize attacking vulnerable and weaker units when initiating in combat. We've also got a whole bunch of other changes. We're not going to go through them because I'm sure they're probably quite big, but we'll round out the video here. when it comes to Civilization 7, I will say I'm looking forward to getting back into the game, but I feel like I say that every patch. I don't know whether this is going to be enough to bring me back to the game, because the truth is that Civ 7 is fun, but it's not fun enough, at least not yet. It feels like it still needs a little bit longer. So I'm going to give it a couple games. I'm going to give it a couple plays, see if I can rekindle my love with the game. Just to talk a little bit about this actual game that we're watching here, because I want to show you, it's actually so fun. I don't know if you've been really paying much attention to what's happening here, but I just want to talk about it because it's really cool. So basically, we started off, we settled a bunch of cities. We've got Augustus, who also decided to settle a bunch of cities or settlements near us. So what we've done is we've now looked to take advantage of the bonuses of our civilization and our leader. We're going to be incorporating the city-states at a reduced cost, and then when you incorporate the city-states, you're actually going to be picking up all of their units as well. So if I bring you guys over to our civilization screen just quickly and take a look at our new leader, so we get 50% influence towards initiating the city-state incorporation action, and when one of your land military, this one, when you incorporate a city-state, you gain all of their units. So you know exactly what I'm thinking, and you know exactly where I'm going with this one. The idea is simple. So let's move it on a little bit here, because we do declare war. Basically, we prep our own military, and then as soon as we've got our city-state that's ready to go, we incorporate them, and then use all the units from that city-state to essentially bankroll our invasion. This is not where we want to be. Where do we want to be? I'm just speeding through. Here you go. Actually, let's go a little bit further, because war should be happening. There we go. There's war right there. So here we've incorporated the city-state into our empire, and we've got all of their military units, and we're now able to start taking out the cities that have been settled by Augustus. So I really like this strategy. It was really cool, and I think it's particularly strong if you're just looking to fight one person. And I think typically you are only really looking to fight one or two people. So as a leader, I think what's her name? Luxmabai, and she's going to be pretty cool. When it comes to the actual civilizations, the new civilizations, let's just quickly check in with them, because we've got the antiquity one, which is the one that we care about most, and that is Scylla. So you get one culture on resources, which is very nice. Like, compare this over to, hold on, is one culture plus one culture per age for every unique resource. So you could definitely get some nice culture synergies going on here with Hatshepsut and Scylla. But I do like their unique unit as well. So you got a ranged unit that counts as a cavalry unit, so it ignores zone of control, and it has the extra movement, which is always really nice. Extra movement on ranged units, just mwah. And then you've got their merchant, which is kind of meh, and then you've also got the unique quarter, which I also don't really like, or I don't really enjoy as much as, say, something like Assyria, who has got just a god tier unique quarter. But yeah, I'll be giving them a go. I'll be giving them a play. I might upload a little bit of gameplay as well, so let me know if you want to see anything. And yeah, other than that though, I think we can pretty much leave it there. If you've got any questions, leave them down below. Any comments, criticism, make sure you put them down there, and I'll check them out. Other than that, we'll call it a day, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.